Welcome back to the English Nook. I'm Maya, and today we are solving one of the most frustrating puzzles in language learning. You know that moment when you're in the middle of a sentence and your mind suddenly freezes because you're searching for a word? Today we are unlocking how to actually think in English naturally, without forcing it.
And let's be honest, Maya, most people think thinking in English means waking up one morning and suddenly having a complete Shakespearean dialogue inside your head. It's completely ridiculous.
Excuse me, Ethan. I was just setting up the premise. But yes, he actually has a point for once. People treat it like a light switch. They think you are either translating 100% of the time or you are magically thinking in fluent English 24/7. It doesn't work like that at all.
Exactly. It's not a light switch, it's a gradual acclimatization process.
Hold on, Ethan. Acclimatization? You're throwing around C1 level vocabulary before we've even reached the 2-minute mark. Let's break that down for our B2 listeners right now. Acclimatization means the process of slowly getting used to a new climate, environment, or set of conditions, right?
Spot on, Maya. Just like when you move to a cold country and your body slowly gets used to the freezing weather, your brain has to gradually adapt to processing thoughts in a new language structure without panicking.
Precisely. When intermediate learners try to force full complex sentences in their head right away, they create an overwhelming amount of cognitive friction. Your internal monologue becomes so slow that your brain naturally runs back to the safety of your native language.
Right, and that creates a massive mental block. You end up feeling frustrated, so you give up entirely. But the real secret isn't starting with complex thoughts or deep debates with yourself. It starts with small, spontaneous micro-thoughts throughout your day.
Micro-thought. I love that term. Small instant observations like, it's hot in here, or where are my keys? Instead of trying to compose a full essay about your career goals while waiting for the bus.
Exactly. If you try to plan your entire life's philosophy in English while making toast, your brain is going to revolt. Start small, build the neurological pathway, and let the habit grow organically over time.
And that is exactly what we are breaking down today. We're sharing 3 practical, realistic mental habits that will shift your internal voice from passive translation to automatic English processing.
So, if you want to elevate your fluency, master native-like speed, and support our show, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. It helps us keep bringing you these high-value episodes every week.
Yes, hit subscribe so Ethan doesn't feel like he's talking to himself, even though he does that anyway. Let's dive straight into part 2 and look at the absolute first mental habit you need to build today.
Okay, so let's talk about the first actionable habit, becoming what I call a micro-narrator. This isn't about holding deep philosophical conversations with yourself in English. It's about narrating your physical actions in real time using super low friction, single clause sentences.
Oh, low friction. Let's pause right there because that's a brilliant B2 concept, Ethan. Friction is resistance, right? So low friction means something that is easy to do, requires very little effort, and doesn't make your brain struggle.
Exactly. When you walk into your kitchen, instead of letting your native language run in the background, you just mentally say, grab the kettle, pour the water, where's the mug? You aren't trying to impress anyone with C2 grammar or complex clauses. You are simply forcing your brain to attach English sounds directly to your immediate physical reality.
Yes, and the beauty of this habit is that it prevents overthinking. Most learners get stuck because they try to form perfect, elegant sentences in their heads before they even open their mouths. Narrating micro-actions strips away that pressure entirely.
Wait, let's break down overthinking for our B2 listeners. Overthinking is when you analyze, evaluate, or worry about something far too much, to the point where it paralyzes you and stops you from taking action.
Look at you, Ethan, taking over my job as the vocabulary guide again. But yes, overthinking paralyzes your internal voice. If you spend 10 seconds figuring out whether you should use the past perfect continuous tense just to think about making coffee, you've already lost the battle.
Right. The goal is pure speed, not grammatical perfection. You want to build a rapid, direct bridge between your eyes, your actions, and your English thoughts. Bypassing that internal translation bureau requires repetition, not elegance.
Absolutely. Once you can comfortably narrate your physical environment without freezing up, you can start moving on to internal emotional states and abstract opinions.
Which brings us right to our next major hurdle: how to handle complex emotions and internal opinions without falling right back into the translation trap.
Let's head straight and see if Ethan can explain emotional processing without using five-syllable words again.
Right, so once you get comfortable narrating physical actions like grabbing a mug, you have to level up to what I call emotional anchoring. When something happens during your day that triggers an emotional reaction, like getting stuck in traffic or receiving a great text, you force your initial reaction to be in English.
Emotional anchoring. Look who's back with the heavy terms. But let's clarify that for our B2 listeners before Ethan gets too carried away. An anchor is something that holds something firmly in place. So, emotional anchoring means linking a real strong feeling directly to an English phrase. So, it becomes your instinctive reaction.
Hey, it's a great concept. Thank you for explaining it so nicely. Yes, instead of sighing in your native language and thinking, this traffic is terrible, you mentally yell, are you kidding me? Move! You capture that raw emotional energy and channel it straight into English.
Oh, I completely agree with that. Raw emotion skips the logical, analytical part of your brain that wants to translate. When you're frustrated or excited, your brain looks for the fastest route to express itself. If you've practiced those emotional phrases, English becomes that fastest route.
Exactly. But what about when you want to form an opinion about something more complex, like a news article or a movie you just watched? That's where most intermediate learners hit a massive wall and run back to translation because they lack nuance.
Ooh, nuance. Let's highlight that word. Nuance refers to small, subtle differences in meaning, opinion, or expression. So when you lack nuance, your thoughts feel too simple or childish in English compared to your native language.
Spot on. You think, my opinion in my native language is sophisticated, but in English I sound like an 8-year-old. So you stop trying. But the trick here is to accept simplicity first. You express the core idea simply, and then you refine it. You don't need a C2 essay in your head to hold a valid opinion.
Exactly, Ethan. Simple and clear beats overly complicated every single time. A lesson you should really apply to your vocabulary choices.
Hey, I'm keeping our listeners on their toes. But let's move into the next phase and look at how to build an active daily environment that keeps this English momentum going without effort.
Okay, so we've talked about micro-narrating your actions and anchoring your emotions. But let's talk about environment. You cannot expect your brain to spontaneously think in English if 99% of the input you consume all day is in your native language. You need to create an immersion bubble.
Immersion bubble. Look who's using fancy buzzwords now. But let's break that down for our B2 listeners before you preach to us, Maya. Immersion means surrounding yourself completely with something, in this case, the language, until it's all around you.
Thank you for the assist, Ethan. Yes, and making an immersion bubble doesn't mean flying to London or New York. It means making small, high-impact digital tweaks. The absolute easiest one? Change the system language on your phone, your computer, and your smart devices to English today.
Oh, I love that tip. It forces passive exposure. Every time you look at your screen, check the weather, or open a navigation app, your brain is forced to process English commands without you consciously setting aside time to study.
Exactly. Passive exposure. That means absorbing information naturally in the background while you're doing other things, without active effort or studying.
Right, and you can stack that habit by changing your background audio too. Instead of scrolling through social media in silence, or listening to music in your native language while doing chores, throw on a podcast like the English Nook or an audiobook in the background. Even if you aren't paying 100% active attention, your brain is tuning its acoustic engine to English rhythms.
Precisely. You are training your subconscious mind that English isn't just an academic subject you open for an hour in a textbook. It's the ambient soundtrack of your actual life.
And when English becomes ambient, thinking in it stops feeling like a forced workout and starts feeling like second nature. Let's head straight into the word tour to review our 5 essential B2 fluency terms from today's debate.
And welcome to the final stop of today's debate, the word tour. Today we crack the code on how to make your internal monologue run in English automatically. Let's review our 5 core B2 terms so you can put them into practice today.
And let's see if Maya can define them all without tripping over her own words. Go!
Challenge accepted, Ethan. Word number 1 is the noun. Acclimatization.
The gradual process of adapting or getting used to a new environment, climate, or set of conditions.
For example, switching your brain to a new language requires a period of mental acclimatization.
Word number 2 is the noun phrase, cognitive friction.
The mental strain or resistance you feel when a task requires too much effort or complex processing.
For example, translating word for word creates unnecessary cognitive friction and slows down your speaking.
Word number 3 is the adjective phrase, low friction.
Describing an action or habit that is easy to do, requires minimal mental effort, and has very little resistance.
For example, micro-narrating your daily actions is a low-friction way to start thinking in English.
Word number 4 is the noun, nuance.
Small, subtle differences in meaning, expression, feeling, or opinion.
For example, don't worry about capturing every delicate nuance when you're just starting to form thoughts in English.
And finally, item number 5 is the noun phrase, passive exposure.
Absorbing language naturally in the background while doing other activities without active studying.
For example, changing your phone's default language provides instant passive exposure every single day.
Nailed it, Maya. Absolutely flawless. Now, before our listeners close their app, it is time for our weekly comment challenge.
Yes, we want to test your active processing right now. Do not translate an answer from your native language. Pick just one word or phrase from today's word tour, like low friction, nuance, or acclimatization, and drop a spontaneous, fast sentence in the comments below.
No overthinking or dictionary checking allowed. Just type out the first natural thought that pops into your head. Maya and I will be down in the comments to join the banter.
And if our bickering brought a little fun to your English routine today, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a quick rating. Your support keeps the Nook running every week.
Thank you for your energy, your focus, and for spending your time with us today.
Stop overthinking. Start micro-narrating. And we will see you very soon at the Nook for another high-octane English adventure.
Keep those English thoughts flowing, everyone. Bye-bye.